Hi and good morning. Today is the 11th of June and it's 2020 and we are still looking at the gospel according to John. Today we are looking at chapter 9. So yesterday we looked at chapter 8 and we were discussing about the disputes that were there about who Jesus was. And I did mention that we still have conflicts within and we still have disputes out there with other people on who Jesus is. Some people believe he's the Messiah. Some people believe he's the bread of life. Some people believe he's the water of life. But some people don't believe that. And there is an argument of who Jesus is. So there are those ones who haven't had that conviction or that Jesus is who he says he is. And that's where we looked at yesterday about the disputes. And when we were moving on, we said we'll be looking at chapter 9, and which I mentioned a little bit because I said about the man who was blind. So Jesus did the unconventional way in the way he healed a man's eyes. So this guy was blind, and then Jesus spits on some dust that he had picked from the floor of the ground, and then he smears around the man's eyes and he sees. But that's not the main issue here. The main issue is that the Pharisees couldn't believe. The man said, the man who healed me made me see. He helped me to see. That's all I know. But the Pharisees wanted a testimony. They wanted a testimony even from the parents. Are you sure this man was born like this? And to them, it's like Jesus didn't have the power to heal. So they had doubts upon doubts upon doubts. But then Jesus kept giving his testimony and saying who he was. He was the child of God. He even equated himself to God. And he said he does what God does. Regardless of them thinking that, oh, he's not of God because he healed on a Sabbath. Just like previously he had healed another man and said, pick your mat on a Sabbath. The healing of the blind as well, helping him to see, was on a Sabbath. And the Pharisees had a problem with that. Yet, they also practiced their own issues like circumcisions on a Sabbath day. And Jesus was asking, if that is so important to you, why do you think this is problematic when I've made a man whole? Well, when I've helped someone to see. So Jesus was giving his testimony on who he is, and the Pharisees wanted to investigate the healing, and Jesus was talking to them more so about the spiritual blindness, because in as much as these things were happening, they didn't want to believe. In as much as the physical miracles were happening, they didn't want to believe. And it's difficult even right now. You know, we wake up every morning, we open our eyes, we see the light, we see the wonders of the world, we see how our bodies work, we see great things happening, miraculous, because we cannot quite understand. We have limited knowledge in our sciences. Yes, the anatomy and the physiology and a little bit of physics there and chemistry there and biology here and a bit of sociology here. We think we know everything. We don't know everything because we don't know how God started it all and how God is going to finish it all. All we know is that we've been given a limited time here on earth. And that's what Jesus was saying about the man. He said, you know, when the disciples asked, who sinned so that this guy is blind? And Jesus said, not him, not his parents. No one sinned. He is in that situation because he was going to glorify God. The way he was, regardless of his suffering for so many years that he had suffered, the situation was like that for such a time as that Jesus went and healed him. So there's so many things that happen in the world, the good, the bad, and sometimes we wonder, why would God allow these things to happen? Some of the bad things that happen are there for the glory of God. Remember, in the Garden of Eden, there was the knowledge of the tree of the good and evil. It was there. Some of the things that happen, yes, we know they're evil, but in God's eyes, if that thing has been created for his glory, then it's there for his glory. We cannot question his ways. His ways are higher than our ways. He's sovereign over all. We didn't ask him to create us. He created us anyway. Things happen and we don't quite understand what happens. There are things that the devil causes. There are things that God allows. Even in the story of Job, the suffering, God allowed it. Why? Because he wanted to show the devil that Job will still trust God. There are things that happen, good and evil. And some of the evil things, like Jesus dying on the cross, seem so gross and evil. But he died so that we can be rescued by faith. So we don't question God. In many ways, we leave the things as they are, but we ask him by faith to guide us each step of the way, so that we will know his promises upon our lives and where he's guiding us and leading us to. Everything happens for a reason, I do believe. And some of these reasons is to glorify God. If God is using you and is talking to you and is guiding you, even in your suffering, even in your pain, God can be glorified. So today, just remember this. We will never be able to explain everything that happens. We will never be able to explain why this blind man was blind. But today, we still talk about it. He's gone long time ago, but we are still talking about it for the glory of God. So what God is helping us to do right now is helping us to open up the spiritual eyes, our spiritual blindness, so that we can see the reality of God. Whoever God says he is, he is. His ways are higher than our ways. And the way he has created the world from the beginning to the end, from the beginning he says it was good, and in the end he wants it to be good. And he's given us a way, and that way is through believing and trusting in Jesus Christ, and day by day trusting God. When we go through hard times, we pray. We don't blame like Job's friends who are saying, maybe it's because you've sinned, maybe it's because you've done this. No, there are situations that happen because God has let them happen that way. So we pray for the grace when we go through hard times. We pray for the grace when we face suffering. We pray that God will be glorified in our situation, however painful. Yes, Jesus went through a crucifixion and it was painful. Jesus died on the cross. It was painful. But God allowed it because it was within his plan to rescue you and me. Just imagine if each one of us were crucified because of the evil that we've done against God. I think the whole world will just be full of bloodshed. But he took up one man, one son of his, and he laid everything upon him. So you and I today, by faith, can come to him and say, thank you for dying on the cross. Thank you for being the sacrifice. Thank you for taking my place. Thank you for being my ransom. So think about it, reflect about it. God is sovereign. God is all powerful, but God is loving and kind. And that's why he has offered a sacrifice in your place and in my place, so that we can be drawn to him and we can experience life eternally with him. Our spiritual blindness will be healed so that we can see the goodness of God in the land of the living and the goodness of God in the resurrected life. It doesn't matter how deep you have gone. Lazarus was dead for 4 days, but he was raised. Jesus died and he was in the grave for 3 days and he was resurrected. So there is resurrection after this. And we pray that one day we will be glorified with God, to live eternally with him. No more sorrows, no more pain, because what God has done is good. Have a wonderful day, and may you have the revelation that God is sovereign and he doesn't want anyone to lose their soul. He wants everyone to be saved, and that's why Jesus is there to help us to see, to help us heal our spiritual blindness. God bless you and have a wonderful day.